What's up everyone and welcome back to another video. So chapter 4 is finally here, and as you know, that means arena points are back to 0 and the grind to champs is once again upon us. But luckily, you know your boy Teko's got you covered. In today's video, what we'll be doing is discussing how to gain arena points and reach Champions League fast in Fortnite chapter 4. I'll be covering all the information and knowledge you need to have in order to not only gain arena points faster, but also improve at the game while you're doing it. Before we get into it though, be sure to drop a like if this video helps you out, and subscribe to the channel if you're new and want to see more content just like this in the future. As well as that guys, just a quick reminder that I do offer direct one-on-one Fortnite coaching. Obviously it does cost money, but if you're interested in getting some one-on-one guidance and help directly from me, then I'll be putting the link near the top of the description. At that link you can sign up and schedule a session. Of course, my YouTube videos are always going to remain free and I'm always going to give you guys the best information possible here, but if you want tailored advice to help step up your game specifically, then the coaching is definitely a good option. Once again, the link is going to be near the top of the description. But with that said, and without further ado, let's get into today's video. So starting off today's video, we're going to begin with the point system. Now the point system for arena in chapter 4 appears to not have changed at all from chapter 3 season 4. The basic idea is this: in open league you get no bus fare and you have high points per kill. In contenders you get less points per kill and bus fare starts hitting pretty heavily, and then in champs you only get 5 points per kill regardless of the game mode, and obviously you get very high bus fare. The basic concept is simple: as you rank up you get less points per kill and even a bit less placement once you hit champs. I guess the main idea that Epic had with this point system was to make people play more passive and have more stacked lobbies in contenders and champs, but throughout recent season it really seems like people play the same moderate to aggressive playstyle regardless of what division they're in. But that's the basic overview of the point system. If you need to see the full point system, I'll put a picture up for solos, here's a picture of the duo point system, and then here's one for trios. So moving on from that, now that we know the general point system, the next topic we're going to go over is the best game mode to gain points in. Depending on who you ask, you might get different answers to this question, but my personal belief is that if you have good teammates to work with, the best game mode to play is going to be trios. My reasoning for this is because since you usually get the same amount of points per kill in trios as solos and duos, and you get more total kills in trios simply because it's teams of 3, the statistical winner has got to be trios. To support this, you can look at pretty much anybody who has a ton of arena points. For example, Shasta, I think that's how it's pronounced, the person who got the most arena points in chapter 3 season 4 had 2,656 trio matches played out of just under 2,900 total matches, so the vast majority of his matches were trios. Now of course there's nothing inherently wrong with playing solos or duos if you don't have a team or if you only have like one good teammate, but I would say that if you're trying to maximize your point gain, trios is probably going to be your best option. And if you need to find teammates, feel free to check out my Discord server, which is going to be linked somewhere in the description. All you need to do is select your region, and then you're going to gain access to a looking for group chat where you can find teammates, people to 1v1, or whatever else you can think of. Once again, the link to that is going to be in the description. So moving on from that, now that we've gone over the whole arena point system and we've determined which game mode you should play, for this part of the video I'll be discussing the best strategy to gain points split up between open league, contenders, and champs. So hopefully by the end of this video you're going to have a good idea as to how you should play in order to gain the most points possible in every division. So starting off with open league, and this one is going to be the simplest of the three. The best way to get out of open league is simply to W key. By W key, I basically mean to push every fight you can reasonably win, try to get high kills, and really just have fun. Since there's no bus fare in open league, you can play as aggressive as you want with no punishment. As well as that, open league is a good opportunity to mix up your drop spots a bit and explore the map, or mix up the weapons and items you use so you can get good with everything before you run into the harsher competition in contenders and champs. Depending on your actual skill level, it might take you as little as just a few hours to get out of open league, or it might take a few days, but in the end, if you consistently play in open league, you're bound to get out of it. On to our next section, and this is going to be Contender League. Contenders is kind of where things start to split up a bit depending on your skill level. I'm going to start off with beginner to intermediate players since I do think most of you watching this video are going to be in that range. Now technically I would say that the most efficient way to gain points for a beginner to intermediate player is simply to loot up, camp, and focus solely on endgame. But at the same time, that really won't do anything for you because although you might reach champs by doing that, you might get a lot of points, you really just won't be improving at the game at all if you do that. What I recommend you do instead, if you're a beginner or intermediate player, is kind of play a middle ground play style. You shouldn't be completely afraid to fight since that's the way you're going to be improving at the game for the most part, but you also don't want to W key to the point where you're getting into shambles situations every game. While elimination points are still valuable in contenders, they do drop off significantly, so the bulk of your points are going to be coming from placement. I would say as a very general rule, and this is going to vary, if you can enter endgame with anywhere between like 2 and 5 kills or somewhere around that range, then you're probably playing a pretty solid playstyle. The biggest tip I can give you in contenders is simply to expose yourself to various situations. In the end, the more difficult situations you run into and overcome, the better you're going to get at the game. I'd say the middle ground playstyle we're going for is usually going to involve landing at a medium to low population spot. Think something like Frenzy Fields or Lonely Labs, or you could also opt to land at an unnamed smaller location and loot up and then either rotate to zone or rotate into a POI to clean up fights. From there, you're going to want to play in a way where you're not shying away from fighting, but you also don't want to be running around specifically looking to W key everybody. There's a good middle ground there and you should see some big improvements once you're able to reach it. it. For my more advanced players out there, you should be finding Contenders if you use an approach similar to Open League. Personally, when I'm going through Contenders, I really don't hold myself back when it comes to fighting, but that's because I gain points consistently regardless of what playstyle I go for. Once you reach Champs and points drop even further, you may want to opt for a slightly slower playstyle, but if you're an advanced player, then Contenders really shouldn't be too problematic. Moving on from that, and we're going to be getting into our final league, which is Champions League. If you've reached Champs, congratulations, you've pretty much beat the game, and if you continue grinding for points, then I'm assuming your goal is to get on the leaderboards. If you're trying to grind leaderboards, the way I recommend you play, regardless of your skill level, is going to be kind of similar to how an average player would handle Contender League. In Champs, for the most optimal point game, you should try to play a mixture of passive and aggressive play, preferably leaning slightly more towards passive actually. If you're confident that you can win pretty much every single fight, then you can play a W key playstyle, but the fact of the matter is that in Champs, placement points are absolutely the dominant factor in ranking up. To support that, just consider the point system for trios. In Champs, you get 175 points for a win and 5 points per kill. That means that it takes 35 kills to equal the value of one win, which you're very unlikely to get on any consistent basis unless you're just built different. So with that said, just like in Contenders, you definitely shouldn't be afraid to get into some fights, but your goal should be more so to maximize your loot and materials and ultimately place higher rather than get a ton of kills. Even the top teams in the world on the leaderboards generally get less than 20 kills per game as a trio, even when they have the skill level to get far more. Obviously, you can adjust your playstyle. If you're absolutely stacked on loot, HP, and everything, you can W key, but the fact of the matter is that in Champs, placement is powerful and you should try to take advantage of that. Moving on to our last section for today's video, and I want to briefly touch on some of the best ways to practice for Arena. This is really just going to be some supplemental stuff you can use in your spare time in order to improve in ways that specifically help you when it comes to winning Arena matches. The first thing I really like for Arena practice is going to be realistic PvP. These maps have matchmaking and are basically a realistic free-for-all with tons of players. These maps allow you to get into tons of fights super fast, and with the high amount of players, you're often going to run into like multiple fights back to back or even like third parties and whatnot. And all of this can help with fighting under pressure and just make you a better fighter overall in Arena. So with that said, I'll put the code up to the map I recommend right now so you can give it a shot. Another fantastic method I recommend for Arena practice is going to be Zone Wars. I don't really recommend Zone Wars for specifically the endgame aspect unless you play competitive, since obviously Arena doesn't have the same tournament style endgames with an absolute ton of people, but I do recommend it for a similar reason as realistic PvP. You get into a ton of fights close together, which helps you a lot when it comes to improving at fighting in Arena. So Zone Wars are definitely another good tool to have in your arsenal, and I'll put up a code on screen to a map where you can do matchmaking and get into a lobby with up to 32 people. And finally, the last method I recommend for practicing specifically for Arena is going to be no surprise, and that's realistic 1v1s. Realistic 1v1s are super useful for practicing direct one-on-one fights, especially if you can find good players to go against. Realistic 1v1s are one of the most effective methods when it comes to improving your general fighting skill set in Arena. What I recommend you do is simply play realistic 1v1s in matchmaking for a while and keep cycling through people every 10 rounds or whenever your opponent leaves. By doing this, you're going to run into a variety of players and you should gain some valuable experience that's going to help you in all sorts of situations in Arena. So once again, I'll put up the code on screen to a great realistic 1v1 map right now. Well, with all that said, guys, that's going to wrap it up for today's video on how to gain Arena points fast in Fortnite Chapter 4. Overall, by understanding the point system and the best game mode to play, optimizing your strategy to match your Arena level and skill level, and using the best practice methods to improve your fighting abilities, you should be well on your way to gaining Arena points super quickly and improving your overall skills while you're at it. If you found this video helpful, then be sure to drop a like on it and consider subscribing as well if you're new to the channel and you want to see more tips and tricks content just like this in the future. As well as that, feel free to use code TECHO in the item shop if you want to help your boy out even more. It's completely free for you and it seriously helps me out a ton. Thank you so much to everyone who's using it. But with that said, thank you all for watching this video and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.